Just wanna go home, home, back home. I've been gone for way too long. Home.
Welcome to Make Space, a home design show that empowers you to create spaces you're obsessed with. Tune in for conversations that dive deeper than pin-worthy rooms. Host Cara Newhart teases out the essentials of designing spaces that inspire happiness and serve your everyday life. Cara has been featured in House Beautiful, Apartment Therapy, NBC News, and Insider, and has collaborated with brands like Home Depot, Wayfair, World Market, and more. Here's your host, Cara Newhart.
It's Cara, and I'm on a mission to help you find your style, learn to tackle home design without intimidation, and unlock the confidence to transform your home. On the show today, I'm sitting down with one of my really good friends, Rebecca, and we have a really fun conversation that covers all kinds of things from experimenting with DIY, uncovering your style, a little bit about her time on NBC's Making It. She's literally an amazing designer and creator. You might have seen her places like the cover of HGTV Magazine, in a JoAnn's commercial she shot with Phyllis from The Office, and all kinds of other places. You guys, I have like the coolest friends. Like seriously, so impressive. But I am so excited for this conversation. I think it's going to be really helpful for you, to energize you. Rebecca has such amazing expertise in this space, from being an interior designer to owning a shop to doing DIY projects and inspiring people every day through what she creates. I'm honored to have her on as a guest, and I can't wait to let her inspire you. Before we dive in, let's get to some quick design strategies. This week, we're talking about rugs, and it is in honor of the fact that Rebecca just launched a rug and has another one coming up. So I wanted to give you just 3 quick rug tips so that when you run to buy her rug, you know what you're doing. Tip number 1 is all legs on deck. When you're buying a rug, one of the most common mistakes I see people making is that the rug is too small. The way you know it's big enough is that all legs of your furniture grouping should be on the rug. This includes your dining table. When you pull the chair out to sit down, the legs of the chair should be able to remain on the rug if you buy one that's big enough. Tip number 2 is what I like to call blend or bold. So a rug in your space is either going to be a neutral, kind of like a canvas, and let other things shine like furniture or artwork, or it's going to be the statement of your space. So I would say blend in, go with a neutral rug if you're looking for another piece to be kind of the showstopper, whether that's a giant piece of artwork, a beautiful like velvet couch, or something else you want your eye to be drawn to. And go bold if you really want the rug to be the focal point in your space. If you want the rug to kind of be like the artwork on your floor. And this is also a good way to pull fun colors. If you go bold with your rug, you can pull colors out of it up onto the wall, onto a throw pillow, and that's going to help your space look super cohesive. So with that in mind, when you go to shop for rugs, it can be overwhelming. There could be pages and pages, but if you have an idea of whether you want to do kind of a blending situation or a more bold statement piece, it weeds out like half of the selection and you don't feel lost. And tip number 3 is that materials matter. So this day and age, there are so many rugs that are such great size for pretty inexpensive, but it still matters what the materials are made of. So you want to make sure you're purchasing a rug that works for your space. So are you in a really humid area, or do you have a pool that people are going to be walking in and out of, getting the floor all wet? You want something that's quick drying in that case. Or do you have a lot of dust and a lot of dirt and it needs to be cleanable? You need to make sure you know what your rug's made of, which is something that I made the mistake a lot of times of just shopping rugs based off of size and color and price, and would not think twice to look at the materials. But make sure you know why you're buying what you're buying. So some things to think about is the pile of your rug, like how high is it? What's it made out of? Is it wool, synthetic, cotton, jute? And how is that going to be either easier to clean, harder to clean? Is it going to wear out sooner? In areas that you have a lot of foot traffic, you might look at something like jute or a woven texture versus a shag rug that's going to get kind of worn down over time. And then you can also do the grin test. So for rugs that are not woven, rugs that look more like carpet, you can actually bend the rug. And the easier it is to see the grid that the rug is made on, the less dense your rug is, and usually the lower quality it is because there's less fibers in the rug, when you bend it, you can see that grid. You know that maybe the rug was made inexpensively. So if you're shopping for a rug in person, the grid test can show you, okay, is this going to be more of a cheaper decorative rug that's lower quality, or does it look like it's a rug that's going to last a long time because it's really dense and really well made? So those are just some quick tips for rug shopping. Be sure to check out Rebecca's rug. She has like a black and white one that she uses in her office that's adorable. And then she has like a colorful one that I think she just rolled out in her kitchen. So at the time of this recording, it wasn't out yet, but it is out now. Hop over to her page on Instagram at Rebecca DIY and check them out. Okay, let's dive into this conversation. You're going to fall in love with Rebecca if you're not already following her. I can't wait. Okay, you guys, so today is going to be such a fun episode. I'm sitting down with my friend Rebecca, who is an amazing designer and DIYer, and she's so much fun. I feel like this episode is going to be a blast. I'm excited for you guys to listen in. And so welcome, Rebecca.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for coming. It's so funny to go from like a phone style regular friend conversation to like a podcast where other people are listening. I feel like I put on my like formal voice and get all serious.
I have to be professional.
Right.
But I didn't even put lipstick on, so at least they can't see my face, right?
Right. At least no one can see. Yes. So for this episode, I just want to focus on kind of how to translate those inspo photos into actual DIY projects in your space. You are so good at design and you're so good at like having an eye for taking inspo and making it your own and then just putting it in your space in a way that looks polished and professional and fun. So I want to pick your brain on that. I hate that phrase. I don't know why I said that. I want to get your tips. It sounds so gross.
Well, I think that when we look at Pinterest, the first thing people want to do is they just want to jump in and they don't have a plan. And I think in design, when I went to design school, everything started off with a planning phase. Even doesn't matter how you're inspired. I think writing down the goal of the project you want to accomplish. I think keeping a list of the materials you're going to need. It doesn't matter whether you're great at sketching or not, but sketching out an idea and just really having a plan to jump off of, because then you have, it helps keep you on track and something to relate back to. So, I typically start with like a mood board. Even if I have this like amazing end game, I always do a mood board because I find that people start like they'll see a room or they'll see a style or they'll see a project and they run in every direction. They buy this, they buy that, and then at the end nothing's really going together, or they're not seeing how it relates back to the original inspiration. So I think like when you're planning out a project, it's important, like what materials am I going to use? How big do I want it to be? Because not everyone's rooms are the same size, or end project needs to be the same size. So I think like keeping in mind like scale, proportion, textures, light, like all those design principles that you can find probably any sort of like download about elements and principles of design to help guide the project. But I think having a plan is the first and foremost important thing when DIY.
Yeah, which is a funny thing because I think as me being a non-planner, that's the part I like to skip. And I know a lot of listeners are the same way. We're just like, oh, let's just wing it and try it out. But the plan really does set the stage for success. In terms of like a project where a lot of times there's a tutorial. So you're on Pinterest and you can find like a blog post with a step-by-step and a how-to. But then a lot of things, it's like you're having to take that and find a way to make your space look like that. But you don't necessarily know like what materials they used or the process. Do you have any tips for kind of how you go about that? Figuring out like how to make that a reality for your space?
I would say like I do a lot of trial and error, but then again, I'm doing the trial and error to show other people like what mistakes to avoid, how to source different things. So I think like if people aren't calling out specific materials, like let's say you have a picture, you can go to a home improvement store and say, hey, I want to recreate this project. What would be the best material? So I think learning as you go and collecting that information is really important, because you might think that they used MDF and they didn't use MDF or whatever, but go to the experts and ask lots of questions. I think that, go to the paint department and ask like, okay, what finish would be best for this application? I'm painting cabinets. Like you don't obviously want to use a traditional latex paint. So you want to use something that's more of an enamel base, that's more durable. So those are all things that I don't think it's just not common knowledge. So I think asking questions and going to the specific sources to ask those questions.
Yeah, that is really good. Just like calling in people to help you, I think is a thing we, maybe try to skip. You like see the inspo photo and you try to, you're DIYing. So you're just like, okay, I have to figure this out. But really using those resources like your Home Depot, the guy that's like retired that just is like leisurely walking around at Home Depot, he's my favorite because he gets so invested in all your projects. Like if you can find one of him,
Right.
that
Oh
could be
yeah,
magic.
for sure. Well, and also getting more than one source because,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I typically, like if I'm painting a room, I go towards eggshell. I go for the
Mhm.
flattest finish possible just because I don't want a lot of light to bounce off of the color. I want the true color to
Right.
kind of shine through. And a lot of times if I go to the paint department, they might recommend more of a satin finish or a semi-gloss finish,
Right.
like a wet area. And I'm going to pull the brakes on that and be like, no way,
Uh-huh.
don't do it. Unless you're going for this like high end glossy look. But overall, I would say,
Right.
get more than one opinion, then kind of weigh out like, what is it you're trying to achieve?
Yeah,
That's
I
going to
like
help.
that, and then
Yeah.
taking those opinions and, like, even just trying them on, like, whether that's paint samples or whatever it looks like, and just kind of deciding what's right for you, but making sure you have people weighing in to give you choices versus, like, trying to be in a void, like, lost, trying to figure out where to even go.
Right. Well, and I think I was just thinking about this the other day, like DIY. I just did a fluted door casing feature wall in my office, which I would be,
Mhm.
like showing on Friday, like the full tour. But
Yes.
people are like, oh, is it budget friendly? And it really budget friendly in the sense that I'm doing the physical labor versus
Sure.
hiring somebody, because that's really
Mhm.
where I think a lot of project costs can incur is with the labor and the
Absolutely.
craftsmanship. So DIY doesn't always mean budget friendly because I don't think you should always skimp on materials. And I
Exactly.
think that's a big misconception in the DIY world where people start cutting corners and they're like, why does my project
Mhm.
look like garbage? And it's because you use garbage materials. So,
Right.
I mean, pay a little bit more for the nicer paint or the nicer wood, and you'll have like your end goal will be much better. So, I think that's
Right. I totally resonate with that because I like DIY to get a custom look that I could not afford otherwise because it would be literally thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars versus like a couple
right.
thousand. But yeah, I think people that try to stay in those like $100 whatever room transformation, like sometimes it works if you have right elements that are existing that you can repurpose. But if you're like straight building a room for $100, that's not going to get you that far. So finding that balance between like saving money and really going all out in the places that matter, that's a pro
It's
tip
huge.
for
It's
sure.
for sure a huge thing. I mean, I remember when I started doing residential design years ago, people would be like, well, I saw on a show they did an entire room for $500 and we want to hire you.
Mhm.
And hiring a designer, I mean, I could spend 500 in accessories alone and not even
Oh, right.
touch your project. So I
Oh,
think
yeah.
there's like the areas where you save on DIY is not hiring the professional for certain things. And then um, knowing the areas, like there are certain areas like I am not qualified in and I just wouldn't take the risk in. And so I will hire a professional in certain circumstances. So
Right.
I think it's just like making a list of pros and cons, a list of things that you know that you can tackle or that will be easy to learn, and then leave certain things up to the professionals. Not everything has to be DIY, essentially. So
Exactly. Yeah, so something I really love about your style is because you do have that background in design and really knowing, like what looks good. All your DIYs really do look like polished and professional and chic, and it doesn't look like someone just came in and like, like, without experience. So, do you have any tips? Yeah. Do you have any tips for kind of making DIY projects that feel up leveled and sophisticated and look expensive, what they really
I
aren't?
think when you look, like if you were to take a room and notice like what about this room makes it look next level or high end, and really pick apart those elements and try and mimic some of those things. Like
Mhm.
I always would say when I was practicing design, the two things that I noticed in people's spaces that were a dead giveaway that they were not achieving a designer look or a
Mhm,
professional look
mhm.
is
Yeah.
their art was hung too high and their drapes were hung too low. So it is like an old rule in design that you hang those drapes as high as you can go, and so that it gives it a more custom look. Because when you go
Mhm.
into a store, obviously your ceiling height is going to play into this, but when you go into any box store, typical curtain length is going to be 84 inches, and I'm going to say that that is too
Mhm.
short for any home because typically a
Oh, yeah.
window even if you have 8 or 9 foot ceilings, your header height is probably going to be at 84. So that means you're hanging those drapes right at 84 inches.
Right.
So most retailers, if you go to online, you will be able to find longer lengths. So I feel like that immediately elevates a look. And then art, artwork is a big thing where you want your art to be incorporated into your space. You want it to be friends with the things around it. Whereas like if you have a 2-story foyer, that doesn't mean your pictures have to be on the second story with, I think those are the two things, like looking and paying attention to elements that are the things that you like out of these high-end looks, and then trying to recreate those and find shortcuts so that you're not, like art, for example. That's a very personal thing, and it can be very expensive, but there's so many ways to DIY art and like frame your own art and give it that polished, elevated look without spending in the clothes.
Yeah, that's really good.
Like picking apart those elements, and really like zeroing in like what makes this look like so extra and why do I love it? It could be textures. Is it the colors? Is it the way like the light is? And then also taking in those realistic elements, saying like, well, my room doesn't have these floor to ceiling windows. So how am I going to compromise that?
Yeah, I like that. Really figuring out why you like what you like about the photo is a really good tip, because people skip to straight trying to recreate versus breaking down the elements that they can like put them together in a different way and get like a similar result. So I like that as a strategy.
It's all about like creating layers and building upon those layers, and every room, space, project has to have a jumping off point. And where are you jumping off from? You don't want to just jump in, to the ocean with no plan. Like,
right.
So I think with every design or project, you have to have, like, we go back to the plan thing. And what was your inspiration and where did it start? And how are you going to make that all come together? So that's, I think, how I create these cohesive spaces. It's just like elements that tie to each other and tie back to the original plan and the original inspiration, and how is that kind of like sprinkled through.
Yeah, I like that so much. So I feel like we should get into your story, because I kind of forgot to ask. That's usually my first question, but can you give us a glimpse into your journey, like how you got into design, became a designer, and then how you've shifted into like the DIY space?
Sure. Okay. So I think if I go back to my early childhood years, I was always creating. There wasn't a time that I wasn't asking for an art set or a calligraphy set or clay. I mean, I wanted wood burning sets. And this is a funny story. I think I was in 4th grade, and that Christmas I wanted a potter's wheel. I wanted spin art. I wanted a wood burning set. Like I wanted all the DIY sets. And months later, I was snooping around, and there was a wood burning set that I found under the sofa that like never got wrapped for Christmas. So I was like,
so you got it. Yes.
But I think starting back when I was really young, I was always creating and painting. There's a funny story that I was telling a friend the other day, and I was in preschool, and there was a box of markers, and I remember laying my eyes on this, like, I guess it was like a fluorescent pink marker, and I'm like, I need to have that marker. So I would hide it so that I would always be sure to draw with it. And there was something about the way that the ink laid down on the paper that I was like so drawn to. And eventually got to the point where I was like, I can't let this marker go, and I stole it. And I like put it in my pocket.
I was about to say, like, if that was me in preschool, day one, it would have been in my pocket, home with me.
It was in my pocket. It was like, if you remember, like they were just like solid colored barrels with like a white hexagon cap. And I remember just like drawing intent like over and over on paper because I just loved the color pink. And then it dried out. I was like, But I just like from a young age, I was always super drawn to any type of art medium, like anything I can get my hands on. Took all the art classes, elementary school, junior high, high school. And upon graduating high school, my guidance counselor was like, what are you going to do, be an art teacher? And I was like, oh my God, maybe. And so my strong suits were math and science. So I kind of got like pushed down that road. And as I started my journey through college, I realized like there was something that I wasn't feeding like in my soul. And I dropped out a few times, and I kept trying to go back, and I was like, something is missing from my life. So I started taking art classes again. And then I just started working, and I realized that I wasn't paying attention to where like the desire lived. And so once I got married, I was 30. I was 27 when I got married. And shortly after, I went back to design school and took one class just to see if this was like an interest, because I felt like as I got older, people were like, oh, you're so great at this, or you're so great at this. And I started listening, and they're like, oh, you're so creative. Why don't you do anything creative with your career? And I was like, I don't know. Cause I guess I just didn't realize the creativity was such a gift. I just thought it was something that like
Yeah.
everybody had.
Just feels so natural.
Yeah, it was so natural. I thought it
Yeah.
was just like, oh, well, this is just my interest, but realizing that it was more than just an interest. So when I went back to school, I stuck both feet in and focused and graduated and realized it was exactly where I needed to be, what I wanted to be doing. And the misconception about design school is a lot of people think it's the puff and fluff, and that's really more decorating, which you cover in school. But through design school, you really go through architecture and the history and this like all the technicalities of design and how we live and function in a space. So I really loved it. This is a long story. I could go on. But
no, I love it. I love it. Keep going.
Working for a home builder, doing model home design and really getting into that. And then when the housing market crashed in 2007, I got laid off from a job and was forced home. And I was 7 months pregnant. I'm like, what am I going to do with my life?
Right.
So I started designing like mood boards and online invitations and like just things that I could pour my creativity in that I could do from home. And that's sort of where my blog started. And I started contributing for a site called Project Nursery. And I became like a design contributor for them and really showcasing DIY projects, like attainable DIY projects that anybody could tackle. And my whole shtick back in 2007 was inspiring women to pick up a hammer and just create. Like, if I can do it, you can do it. So it's been a long journey. And it's kind of changed over the years, but I feel like everything I've done has kind of molded me into what I'm doing today. Yeah. So I still love design. I just like can't be hired to do client stuff. I'm actually doing more design work for brands and things like that. So yeah, that's kind of how I got.
I love that.
We'll get back to the conversation after a quick word from our sponsor.
Okay, time for something super exciting. So I talk to clients every day who really struggle to pick out colors for their spaces. They feel overwhelmed, like they're standing at the color wall having no idea where to even start. They find themselves Googling best colors for the dining room, being overwhelmed by choices and underwhelmed by the one that they pick. So I want to change the game in a really easy and approachable way. So I'm launching a mini course called Color Curator. This is going to help you create a personalized, perfect palette for your space. This course has all kinds of practical strategies, and it is going to change the way you think about color. You deserve to feel confident in creating beautiful spaces filled with color that light you up and support your everyday life. And I'm here to show you that it doesn't take a design degree, in-depth color theory, or hiring an interior designer to achieve that. If this sounds super exciting and it sounds exactly like something you need in your space, just hop over to DIYDreamHome.club/color. You can get all the information, you can get in on this. It's gonna be amazing. I'm so pumped to have made this course for you, and I know it is going to change spaces and transform lives, and I seriously cannot wait to see how it can help you in your space.
And now, back to the interview.
I love it because I see so many parallels in my story, and something that kind of like came to mind is as you're talking about like being so creative as a kid, I feel like those of us that had that piece of our childhood, like we like fearlessly experimented so young, and that gave us like this foundation where now it's like we're confident to be creative and own that, you know, as part of us. And there's so many women that just, you know, they say like, I'm not creative or I'm not whatever. It's like, I think maybe they took your crayons away in like when you went to middle school or whenever they do that, when it's like time to, you know, write and math and the crayons are gone. And then like you just never asked for them back. Like you just kind of stopped and you didn't like pursue that as a passion. And that's fine, whether that's because, you know, you didn't enjoy it or you didn't have time or you weren't fortunate enough for that to be a reality in your life. But I feel like so many women don't see that as like they just don't have that creative foundation. So they need to dive in and like experiment and give themselves that time to kind of build up confidence and try things and find their creative voice. So do you have any like tips for, I don't know, like diving in, experimenting without fear, picking up power tools?
I think
anything you would say?
Finding somebody that inspires you or that you feel like aligns with your style or passion. And I put projects out on to Pinterest and Instagram and all the social media channels so that people, not just to spark inspiration, but to give somebody a starting point. Like recreate
Right.
this obviously we never want people taking credit as if it's their project, but the way I look
Exactly.
at
Yeah.
it is, let's say I have this, wall mural. So I always say painting something, whether it's repainting furniture, painting a wall, painting a design, painting a canvas. That's a great place to start, just to kind of like open up the doors of creativity, because I feel
Absolutely.
like color, can do. There's so much psychology in color, and there's so much inspiration that can
Mm-hmm.
come with color. And like everywhere you look, there's like color inspiration with food and fabrics and landscape, and I mean, there's just so much to go from, like a jumping off point with color. But with paint, recreate this mural, and I think it opens people up and it gives them that practice. So like this
Yeah.
project is a practice for them. And when you do so many of these practice projects, you then spark your own creativity. And before you know it, you're creating your own projects and your own variation of, what that looks like to you. So I think like,
Right.
it's like, have you ever taken like a hand lettering class?
Uh-huh.
You're
You
tracing
trace.
letters.
Yeah.
And eventually you get your own flow and your own style based on your handwriting and your whatever. And you
Uh-huh.
take those tracings away, and now you're able to do that. So it's like training wheels. That's kind of how I look at
Exactly.
design. And especially if you've pushed that down for so long, you have to bring it back up
Mm.
and in some way. And it's not just diving into some random project and being like, why didn't it work out? I feel like finding something that really
Right.
inspires you that you can model after, and
Yes.
kind of go through that motion. That's how I learn, new
Uh-huh.
stuff.
Absolutely. That's the best strategy, because then you're not like going at it alone trying to figure it out. You really have someone you look up to, and that structure is there. And that's a really important distinction between like the training wheels and the copying, to learn and find your voice and go through the motions and find the techniques, and then kind of going out on your own, that being like two separate phases of the process. So it's like when you're in that, like copying someone's project or like doing their tutorials, not really copying, you are like crediting or reaching out to them, like shooting them a DM and connecting with them and really using them as like your creative mentor until you're ready to like create your own
Right, for
project. So
sure.
that's really
So
good.
that's, I mean,
Yeah.
I think in the days of my early design, there wasn't Pinterest. It was ripping out pages of
Mm-hmm.
magazines and making
Right.
inspiration collages. And I
Uh-huh.
think of how fortunate we are as a creative community that we have all these tools, because they didn't exist before. So yeah,
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, we're so lucky. We have like too much
right.
inspo,
I
but it's
know
like a great thing.
it can be overwhelming. So that's when I say like,
Mm-hmm.
pick somebody that you admire and you vibe with their style and go from there.
Mm-hmm.
There's no turning back once you
Right?
get started.
No, it's addicting for
Yeah.
sure. But yeah, if listeners at home, if you guys didn't know, Rebecca's kind of low key amazing because she got put on the cover of HGTV Magazine as well as a whole spread of her house. And I want to dive into what that experience was like. Um, like, what was that
I
like?
mean, it's still sort of like a pinch me moment. There's certain things that I would say like lose their luster over time, but this is not one of
Mm-hmm.
those things.
Uh-huh.
HGTV in general as a brand has always been embedded into my design journey. And I remember
Mm-hmm.
early on, when my husband and I first got married, like I was like, glued to HGTV shows. And I
Yeah.
actually, not many people know this, but I submitted an audition tape for the first season of Design Star, which is crazy because they just did a
Uh-huh.
reboot. There's like a new season.
Right. Like the other
So
week.
it was
Yeah.
the first season, and reality TV like wasn't even like a big to do then. And I sent to the VHS
Mm-hmm.
tape. That's how long ago this was.
Oh my gosh,
I know.
wild.
And I don't think I was done with design school at the time. And I was like, gosh, to have any affiliation with HGTV as a brand would be like a dream come true. And so then I think I submitted
Right.
for season 2. And it was during a time when who knows if anybody even received my, audition tapes. But
Right.
I remember when the magazine had come out, and I'm like, this is like, I love the magazine. I love the colors. I love their focus on DIY. I just love everything about the brand. And so for the last couple of years, I'm like, just thinking it'd be so honorable to have like just a project, like a headboard or a painted
Yeah.
wall or just like a little corner with my face on a project that I've done to say like
Like
I made it in the
little shout
magazine.
out.
So when they approached me about a
Yeah.
home tour, I had no idea what to expect, and it was like life
Mm-hmm.
changing for me, just as like individual goal. And
Right.
they came out and they shot my home, and they didn't tell me it was going to land on the cover. So it wasn't until I went.
I remember this.
It wasn't until I went to the drugstore and picked up a copy. I was like, oh, well, I know that cover's new. I'm like, oh, wait a second. That's my craft room.
That's my face.
So it definitely was like an amazing experience. And like, I'm so thankful and grateful. And it's just reminds me of how far I've come and how long it's taken to get to this place in my life and in my career.
Oh my gosh, so well deserved. I was like glowing for you, like so freaking excited, and like the cover surprise. Maybe they just wanted to surprise you and like leave you hanging.
I don't know. I mean, it was, you know, we started talking before COVID hit, and then COVID hit, and I thought like this wasn't going to happen.
Right.
And then it circled back around, and it was initially slotted for, I think, late summer. And then it hit the first issue of 2021. So there was all these surprises along the way that were just like, oh.
Right? Just a wild ride.
So cool.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Well, one time HGTV Magazine quoted my Instagram comment on somebody else's project. So, you know, I'm pretty famous
but even
too.
That, like, you know, like those little things like mean so much because you know you're being seen in some capacity, like whatever it is, you're like, somebody's watching. So
yeah, no, I'm totally kidding, but like it's like literally so exciting not only to know someone who's like had this huge feature, but for it to be like a close friend and just be like, oh my gosh, I know how this feels for you. Like your work is amazing and people finally get to see it everywhere. Like so exciting.
Thank you. It was really exciting. And I'm still in disbelief at times that it even happened. And I don't know if it'll ever wear off.
Right? It shouldn't. You should just keep being proud for sure. You've earned it. But yeah, so then you finally got your time on reality TV and you killed it. And I fangirled the whole time, which you didn't even know me then. So that's even funnier to think of. But you were on Making It. And I would love to dive into this. Maybe get some behind the scenes information on how your season went. Yeah.
Reality TV dirt.
Yeah, just like what the process was like, you know, that we didn't see, like how hard you worked or some challenges you had to overcome, like creatively. If there's anything new you tried or
I think
fun stuff like that.
Well, the whole interview and audition process was crazy, and it spanned over a few months. And it was one of those things where you didn't really know you were on the show until you were on the show. Because I've talked to other production companies about other projects, and you know, they definitely get you amped up and hyped up and excited, and things could take a turn. And so to actually like land in LA and be there and walk on set, it was like, that was like a dream come true. You know, there's a few things I know I've had some lofty goals on this bucket list of mine, but
I love that though.
It's so crazy. So to walk on set and then to know what was coming was pretty astounding. Like the whole process, and then just to be amongst the talents was really overwhelming and intimidating. And I think we all felt that because nobody really knew, like, what's their secret weapon, you know?
Right. Like, what can they do that they don't look like they could do?
Right. And we all come from such different backgrounds. And so it was just really going and being myself and taking on the challenges and working through them and being able to pivot.
Right.
And I think that's one of my strengths is working under pressure and being able to pivot.
Absolutely.
Like if something comes my way, I can just like switch it up. And I know my craftsmanship, that like that's something that I think it can be taught, but there's a level of craftsmanship that I think I possess that is just ingrained in me, and that must come from being a perfectionist.
Right.
And I knew that if it wasn't like the most creative project or like my best work, I knew my finished work or finished carpentry was going to put me, or at least keep me there for whatever challenge. You know, you kind of feel it out as you go, like, okay, I'm definitely not in the top this week, but I'm not going home because of X, Y, and Z.
Absolutely.
So it was just like tackling each challenge with, you know, I'm here for a reason. And I never felt like I was competing against anybody other than myself.
I love that.
Which is crazy. A lot of people have a hard time like understanding that or believing that, but really it was like a race against myself and like, can I do this?
I feel that through and through. And I think one of the cool parts of the show is like it's a competition show, but really there was so much like community. You could just see all of you from different backgrounds like coming together to support each other and becoming real friends. And it's like they couldn't have suppressed that even if they wanted to, because it was just so like it looked like such a good, cool community of support. And so it's like it's cool because I think as designers, when we really get into our work and like as artists, you really understand that like it's not a competition. Like this is your own expression and your own journey, and like you are here to be better than you were yesterday, and if you aren't being better, that's the only way you can lose. And so I like that it's like personal competition with your own self. That's like such a cool.
Yeah, I mean, what people saw on TV as far as the relationships were real, and you're thrown into this like chaotic situation, and you have no choice but, I mean, sink or swim, really.
Right.
And we all came together and worked together, and we had this bond that literally we all took away friendships from it that will last a lifetime.
Yeah.
And as corny as it sounds, like we really are all still really great friends, and we have a group chat that we, like a text message thread that we talk on, and everyone's like biggest cheerleader. But the work that goes into it, of actually being on a reality show, the hours were crazy. And I mean, you're functioning on little to no sleep, and you're away from your family. I mean, I was gone for almost 5 weeks in LA. And it's, I think the big misconception is the camera's rolling. Like the camera doesn't stop for you in the bathroom. And you're talking to Amy Poehler and Nick Offerman. You're talking to Nick Offerman and Amy Poehler, and they don't cut camera. It's like everything you say is being recorded, and your mic's
like
constantly...
don't fangirl or say something dumb. Like
I know. The first time they came up to my workstation, I was like, "Oh my god, I'm sweating so bad."
Oh my god.
Like, you guys. So they're like, "Okay," and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, are they gonna put that in?" But they did, which is fine. But yeah, that's the bigness, because people are like, is the timer real? The timer is real.
Real. You can see it on your face that it's real. Like, everyone competing, like you can see. They're like,
oh, it was real. Yeah. So, it really, like, of all the reality shows, not that I've been on other ones, but I've heard rumors, and they really, like, since Amy's one of the producers, she really wanted it to be like a feel-good show.
Yeah.
And it really was. Like, what you see is what really happened. I don't feel like it was produced to look a certain way. That was really like how we were all portrayed is really who we all were. So I'm so thankful for that, because you never know.
Right? You really never know. You like have to have so much trust with them having that much footage. Right? Yeah. Well, that's really cool. And what a cool experience. Did it like challenge your creativity in any specific ways? Like, I know being creative can feel like you are putting a lot of you out there and being vulnerable, and a lot of energy, a lot of like, just time thinking and inventing new ideas and new things. Was that like draining, just being in the trenches for 6 weeks?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if you think about it, like one of the, I would say, most challenging episodes for me was the lawn ornament. Because when in my life have I built a lawn ornament?
Right.
I haven't. And I knew I had to go big.
Right.
I knew, like, there's only 8 episodes. So by that time we're, halfway through. And I just remember thinking, so all of my projects, I start off with a color scheme. That's where I started, because it really was no inspiration to start with. It was just like, you knew the challenge, and I knew what my end goal was. So I would start with a color scheme, and everything was built off a color scheme, and just like how these colors were going to play off each other and be incorporated into the project. So the lawn ornament was the most challenging. I would say, like, the things where I got pushed the most were building in that sense, because I had to build a lawn ornament, and I had to build the structure in a way that it wasn't going to tip over and people could stand on it. So there was like a lot of components that, in a normal DIY, I wasn't thinking about. The nice thing is, like, certain elements weren't taken into consideration, like weather. It didn't need to be weatherized or anything like that. But we, for the most part, our design had to be something that we could entirely build ourselves. Now, Jimmy DiResta, we were allowed to utilize him when it came to, like, almost like the engineering component of it. So I'm like, I need to distribute this much weight to go this vertical. Like, he was able to help me a little bit with that. But for the most part, it had to be like my design. It wasn't like him building it for us.
Right.
that's one thing I think like people don't get to see. They didn't get to see how much building I actually do. And so not only do I do like a lot of DIY and design stuff, but I do a lot of building as well. And that I think there's only so much time on the show that people see. But
for sure. And I know that was a surprise for me meeting you afterward. And I guess it just because they didn't really portray it that way. Like, you know, you were using tools here and there, but like you were like a legit like builder. Like the stuff you're doing in your space like is hands-on power tools, like epic projects. So it's been exciting getting to know that side of you versus just like your design, because you are so good at design. It's easy to like look at your house and be like, she's a designer. But yeah, you got all of the skills to back it up too.
Well, and you know, there's certain things like I feel like with the way social media has gone, I feel like, you know, there's certain girls that have found their niche and they're like, oh, woodworker. And there's certain I am a muralist.
Yes.
I am I play with pottery. You know, there are specific niches. You don't have to do everything.
Absolutely.
You know? And I think that's where somebody coming into the DIY space might be intimidated or might get lost or swallowed real quickly because, you know, like, you don't have to be a finished carpenter if you don't want to be a finished carpenter. You know, like, there's plenty of designers that still hire out finished carpenters. And there's plenty of DIYers that don't do their own like I know you do electrical, which I think is incredible. But like I really won't touch electrical. And there's a lot of reasons why I won't touch it. I have an electrician. We've worked out some really good deals. So like that's part of the project I'm able to give away. I understand it, but I'm not like, oh my God, I need to learn. So I think like not letting like there's skills I learned on making it that I'll probably never use again. You know what I mean?
But it was like fun to try kind of. But no, thank you.
And like that's okay. So I think like a big message to people just entering the DIY space is like, you don't have to do all of it. Like if you're really good at painting your finished project, that's a skill. You know?
Yeah, that's so important because I think the new wave of like female empowerment is just that. It used to be like, we must prove that we can do anything men can do. And now it's like, okay, we know that. But now it's like, we can do it, but we don't have to. We can do whatever we choose to do, whatever we have passion in, like, and that's like the more nuanced way to empower. And I just see that like in your work. And that's such a good way to describe it, of like, outsource. If you don't love it, you don't want to do it, you don't feel comfortable, like, don't do it. Simple as that.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I've worked with amazing finished carpenters that don't paint their own projects. They hire a professional painter. So I think there's room, you know, there's areas like if you want to become an expert in something, then become an expert in that. But you don't have to do everything and be great at everything. And that, you know, it's kind of like I take that back to design in the sense of one of the reasons that I got out of designing residentially or got burned out is because, you know, the price point that I was designing at for clients, they wanted to be in love with every single piece of the room. And the message is be in love with the finished product, but you don't have to be obsessed with the lamp and the chair and the rug and the, like every element that goes into it, because a lot of times they're searching for the holy grail or a needle in a haystack or something that doesn't even exist, but they think exists. And then it's like that prolongs the project, and it can be, it can like stifle the creativity and it can stop you because, you know, well, if I can't paint this perfect or I can't find this perfect, I don't want to continue. So for those perfectionists out there, it can literally like stop the creative process.
Yeah. It's like crippling.
So it's like control the things that you can control, let go of the things that you can't, and like the things that you're not great at. Like that's like, I'm not a professional upholsterer, but I can, you know, I can make a pillow or two. But if I need to recover a sofa, like I've seen girls tackle it and like kill it. I'm like, well, obviously this is a skill that you should hone in on. But if it's not your jam, give it away to the professional.
I love that so much. That's so good. Okay, I feel like you have so much coming up next. So first of all, there's a rug launch happening. And by the time this episode comes out, it will have already happened. So you can tell us all about it. What does that look like? Where can everyone get them?
So I have partnered, or I should say I'm collaborating with Well Woven Rugs on a Rebecca Probst collection. And I can't tell you how many parts to the collection there are quite yet, because we are still figuring all those details out. But the launch is Friday, March 5th, and we are launching my first rug. I'm so excited. And the first rug in the collection is called the Emerson. I named it after my firstborn son, and I just thought it was like appropriate.
That's
So
so sweet.
his name is Brant Emerson, so I went with Emerson. And this rug reminds me of him because it has a very structured design, and his personality is very structured.
Uh-huh.
But then it has like playful elements, like a braided tassel trim,
Yeah.
a high plush pile, and it's just really soft. And as you can see, I'm sitting on the floor.
Uh-huh.
Everyone out there can't see I'm sitting on the floor, but I'm a floor sitter. I am one of those weird adults.
I'm a floor person. I will sit on the floor in airports. Anywhere I go, I'm a floor person. So I feel you.
So
we are floor people.
Yeah, texture was really important to me, and the way it felt under my hands and feet. And believe it or not, the first rug in my collection is neutral.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a reason I went with a neutral palette, and that was because I feel like rugs are a bigger commitment.
Yeah.
And it can be the jumping off space for a room. And if you've never used a rug, I feel like this is a great time to bring in texture and pattern and incorporate color in other ways. And then you're not so committed to a color palette if you're afraid of color.
Absolutely.
So I'm just kind of like working it in so that people like, so by the time like my couple more come out.
Right, your rainbow rugs, which are inevitable.
Color.
I like that. Well, your spaces are so colorful, and so it's like a beautiful complement to have that like structured neutral, and then like your wall is fun and your couch is fun, or even if people are afraid of color, like your throw pillows can be fun, or you can paint a wall. Right. And so to have that base where if you're investing in a rug, it's going to last you through your phases of, I know my favorite color changes like every day. So if there's people out there that are unsure, that's like a really good base. So I'm so excited.
It's a good base. And I feel like this rug can work in so many different spaces. Like it'd be great in a nursery because it's very like textural and it's soft. And I feel like it's sophisticated enough that it could work in a primary bedroom or in your main living space. So I don't feel like it's super limited to like any one space because of the neutral color palette.
Yeah. That's so exciting.
And the price point is incredible. Like I want to say for an 8x10, we're in the $300 range.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And they're always like running great deals. And so, it's something that like, I feel like this piece can be moved around in different parts of your home. So, if, like, after a few months in one room, you can like
change it up. Right? If you're
room.
like me and you rearrange spaces to pretend you got to redo them. Yeah. Perfect.
Right. So that was like one of the reasons why I redid my office. So there was nothing wrong with the function of my office, but I really wanted to show people how you could incorporate a neutral rug and then infuse color in other areas of the space. So I painted this mural in my office and brought in like a fun colored sofa. And I think it all works really well together. And I also layered like multiple patterns. So I think that's another thing I love showing people how to do is layered patterns and stuff. So,
yeah, because that can be so intimidating. Patterns, people are like, oh, they don't match, but like, no, mix it up, layer them. Looks good.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to like those initial principles we talked about earlier on. It was just like paying attention to scale and proportion of things and how they relate to each other within the space. So, yeah, no, I'm excited for this rug launch. It's exciting.
Yeah, so excited.
This is another thing. Like I've always wanted to put my name behind a line of something, and so this is like a really amazing start.
It really is, and such a good fit. It looks so good in your room. I can't wait for everyone to see it. Actually, we should probably tell them, where can they find you on the internet to see the rug and see your space?
You can find me right at RebeccaPropst.com or on Instagram at RebeccaDIY. Those are the two main places that you will find me. But on my website, you can find all of my social channels and my Pinterest and all that good stuff. But I'm usually hanging out on Instagram every day. That's actually where we met, was Instagram.
Yeah, it is. That's where I make a lot of my friends. I just stalk them on Instagram and just declare them my friend, and then we're friends, and that's what you get.
The rest
I love it so much. Okay, well, this episode is seriously amazing. I am so pumped to share with the listeners at home. Thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with me.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This was so fun. I've only done one other podcast, and it was like such a neat experience because I think it really gives people a chance to get to know you.
Yeah.
And like that they,
You're really good at it. You should do more or start your own. Your voice is so happy and engaging, and that's what it takes. So, and you have good tips.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
If you want to, let me know. I'll help you.
Okay, sounds good.
#obsessed.
Okay, so what I'm obsessed with this week is super simple. They're these little sticky squares that are made to keep your rug down. So they're basically like those 3M strips, like the poster strips, or like double-sided tape, but they're made for rugs, so they're a little bit larger, and I honestly don't know how they're that different. Maybe you could just use 3M strips. I just know the package said they were made for rugs. Either way, these are amazing because you put one in each corner of the rug, and it helps keep it stuck down to your wood floors, or tile floors, whatever kind of hard flooring you have, so it's not sliding all over. They've worked really well. I have a runner in my kitchen that I've used them on, and it stays down when we're walking across it. That's a really high traffic area. And then it also works with the Roomba running over the top of it. So it hasn't pulled up with a lot of wear and tear, and it's really simple, a really simple solution. I like it because I didn't have to cut a whole rug pad or buy a whole rug pad. It's a lot cheaper and very effective. So I will link the ones I use in the show notes, and you can check them out.
Time to talk trends.
The trend we're covering this week is washable rugs. So this initially came from Ruggable. I think they're the very first ones to do washable rugs. I have 2 of them, one in my entryway, one in my dining room, and I'm obsessed with them. So basically it is like it's sort of like a Velcro situation. So think like the rough side of the Velcro is like a black rug pad, and then the soft side of the Velcro is your rug that you just stick down on the rug pad. And then when you need to wash it, you can just pull up the fabric layer, the soft side, throw it in the washer, and wash the rug. It's amazing if you have pets and kids or just a high traffic area that's going to get a lot of like dirt, mud, moisture. It's amazing to be able to wash your rugs. So I'm very obsessed with Ruggable. I was really unsure about them at first, but they're a game changer. And then a lot of other brands have come out with something similar as well. I haven't tried all of them yet. I can only recommend Ruggable because that's the only ones I've tried, but other brands have them too. I think this is really innovative and really amazing for kind of that balance between aesthetics and function, being able to get the look, but have it be easy to maintain and upkeep. So if you don't have a washable rug yet and you're a messy person, or you live with tiny, messy humans or pets scampering around, I would totally recommend it. You can also switch them out. So you could leave the rug pad down and then switch the rug out to different ones. So if you're indecisive, this is also good too. But check out washable rugs if you haven't already. I can't wait to hear what you think, how you use them in your space, and if you're as obsessed as I am.
Psst, if you're still here, that means we need to be friends. Hop over to Instagram and follow me at Never Skip Brunch if you want DIY projects and more design inspo. Or if you want to get connected for podcast-specific updates, hop over to Make Space Pod, and you can stay in the loop for when new episodes drop. See you on Instagram.
I'm on my way back home. Thanks for listening. If this is your first time listening in, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you can stay in the loop with the newest episodes. If you're a subscriber and you love the show, be sure to rate, review, or screenshot and share your favorite episode on social.
You're listening to this podcast, so I know you've got a curious mind. Here's a helpful fact you may not know yet. Drivers who switch and save with Progressive save over $900 on average. Pop over to Progressive.com, answer some questions, and you'll get a quick quote with discounts that are easy to come by. In fact, 99% of their auto customers earn at least one discount. Visit Progressive.com and see if you can enjoy a little cash back. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National average 12-month savings of $946 by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive between June 2024 and May 2025. Potential savings will vary.